Some men's fashion brands charge luxury prices for cheap quality. Others cost less and make you look 10 times better. Today, we rank the biggest men's fashion brands from worst to best based on style, quality, value, and what real customers actually rate highly. Let's start. 16. Tommy Hilfiger. Tommy Hilfiger opens the ranking as the clearest example of logo tax in the mid-market. A standard Tommy dress shirt retails for $80 to $100, built from a 140 g per square meter polycotton blend that costs $2 to $4 per meter at the mill. Full landed cost lands between $6 and $9, which means the shopper is paying roughly 10 times what the garment cost to make. The rest is absorbed by PVH Corporation's marketing spend, licensing fees, and the department store wholesale margin. The flag logo and the nostalgic Americana campaigns do the heavy lifting. The cotton is thin. The fused collar bubbles within a year of wear. What the buyer receives is a perfectly ordinary shirt with a recognizable name, priced as if the logo itself were a luxury material. You are paying for the flag, not the fabric. So which label takes the same playbook and charges a premium on top of it? A sub-brand of a luxury house, cutting the same cloth at 10 times the price. 15. Armani Exchange. Armani Exchange sits at the bottom of the Armani brand hierarchy, yet its retail prices refuse to admit it. A basic Armani Exchange tee retails for $60 to $90, constructed from a mid-weight polyester viscose jersey sourced through mass production contracts in Turkey, China, and Vietnam. Unlike Giorgio Armani or Emporio Armani, there is no connection to the Milanese atelier, no premium wool mill supply, and no in-house tailoring program. Landed cost per tee works out to around $8 to $12, which means the markup at full retail runs close to 10 times. Parent group Capri Holdings manages the line directly, which does nothing to close the gap between production cost and shelf price. That gap is absorbed entirely by global marketing, flagship stores, and the ongoing effort to keep the Armani name visible. What the buyer is paying for is the eagle logo and the association with a luxury house that has never actually touched the garment. So what happens when a designer name becomes a pure licensing operation? A New York legacy brand, reduced to a royalty payment. 14. DKNY. DKNY presents the story of a designer legacy almost entirely hollowed out into a licensing operation. Once synonymous with Donna Karan's New York sensibility, today's DKNY shirts are produced under the GRI Apparel Group with manufacturing split between factories in China, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Donna Karan's departure left no in-house design atelier, meaning creative control now sits with a licensing conglomerate rather than the original designer. Retail prices for a standard DKNY shirt hover between $85 and $120, yet the landed cost is typically around $12, with G3 adding a 20% wholesale markup before selling to retailers. The remaining price is absorbed by royalty fees paid to the trademark owner. What is left is a product that trades on nostalgia and a recognizable name but delivers little connection to the original craftsmanship that once defined the label. The brand is a trademark with no house behind it. So which label takes the same formula and sells it with a luxury lifestyle story attached? Accessible luxury, built on bonded leather. 13. Michael Kors. Michael Kors markets itself as accessible luxury, but the reality on the shelf is often a belt or bag made from bonded leather, scraps of leather fibers pressed together with polyurethane and coated to mimic full-grain hide. A standard Michael Kors belt retails for $80 to $110, yet the actual material and production cost typically falls between $1 and $3. The gap is not just the markup. It is the short lifespan. Bonded leather is notorious for peeling and cracking within 2 to 4 years, especially at stress points like the buckle fold. The ready-to-wear sits on similar ground. Shirts and knits retail between $98 and $160 with landed costs near $10 to $14. The Capri Holdings parent group allocates most of the margin toward retail footprint and aspirational marketing rather than material upgrades. What the shopper buys is a disposable accessory engineered to look premium until the surface flakes away. So which brand at the same corporate parent manages to charge even more? Two brands, the same factory, one marked up far beyond the other. 12. Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein sets a new bar for brand-driven markup within the same corporate stable. Shirts carrying the Calvin Klein label routinely retail for $120 to $180, yet the production line is nearly indistinguishable from Tommy Hilfiger since both brands are owned by PVH Corporation and often share the same factories in Bangladesh and Vietnam. According to PVH filings from fiscal 2025, the group commands a gross margin above 59%, made possible by charging a premium for the Calvin Klein logo despite near-identical material inputs. The only real difference is the label stitched inside the collar and the marketing budget behind it. This intraconglomerate price gap is the most egregious in the ranking. Two shirts from the same plant, same output, one marked up far beyond the other. The underwear line operates on the same principle, with an elastic band that costs under $2 to produce, retailing for $28 to $42. You pay top dollar for a label change. So which licensed denim brand takes the game even further? A horseshoe stitch, doing all the work. 11. True Religion. True Religion built an empire on the horseshoe logo stitched onto the back pocket, and that logo is still carrying the brand long after its first bankruptcy. A pair of Ricky straight-leg jeans retails between $150 and $220, yet the denim itself is an 11 to 12 ounce cotton elastane weave sourced from mills in Mexico, Egypt, and Bangladesh at roughly $4 to $5 per meter. Landed cost per pair, including the hardware and the thick contrast stitching, falls between $18 and $24. The remainder is absorbed by retail markup, licensing agreements across Asia and the Middle East, and a marketing budget leaning on celebrity visibility. The brand is now owned by SB360 Capital and ACON Investments, holding groups that monetize the name rather than invest in new weaves. There is no selvage program and no mill relationship worth mentioning. You are paying for a stitch pattern and a memory of the mid-2000s. So which licensed British label trades on pure nostalgia? A British name without a British house behind it. 10. Ted Baker. Ted Baker sits on shaky ground in the ranking, not just because of markup but because of how little of the original house remains. After the 2024 collapse of its North American operations and the UK business entering administration, the trademark is now controlled by Authentic Brands Group, a licensing holding company that also owns Reebok, Forever 21, and Brooks Brothers. A Ted Baker dress shirt still retails for $135 to $175, yet production has been consolidated under third-party licensees operating out of China, Bangladesh, and India at a landed cost near $13 per unit. The signature finishes, such as the contrast inner cuff and the floral print lining, remain on the tag, but the fabric has quietly shifted toward lighter polycotton blends in the $3 per meter range. There is no central atelier driving cohesion. The pattern is licensed, the fabric is sourced to a cost target. Authentic Brands Group collects the royalty and moves on. The premium is pure nostalgia. So which Italian label closes the worst half with the most theatrical markup? An Italian address, standard denim, and a runway budget. 9. Diesel. Diesel closes the worst half by perfecting the art of premium price for mid-tier output. A signature 1995 straight-leg jean from Diesel retails between $248 and $298, while the denim itself is a standard 11-ounce ring-spun cotton sourced from Italian and Turkish mills at around $6 per meter. Full landed cost, including the distressed treatments and the hardware, sits between $22 and $28 per pair. The rest of the price covers the OTB Group's retail footprint, licensing royalties, and a marketing spend leaning into provocative campaigns and flagship stores. The washes are distinctive. The cuts are confident. But the underlying cloth is the same weight and weave class as jeans selling for a third of the price on the same block. There is no selvage mill signature, no proprietary loom, no deadstock sourcing that would justify the premium. You are paying for the story of the jean, not the jean. So which brand opens the honest half, and what does real value look like on the shelf? The tone shifts. A Japanese retailer that publishes its material specs on every page. 8. Uniqlo. Uniqlo opens the honest half as the mass retailer that brought transparency to the heart of its business model. Every product page lists the precise fabric composition, fiber origin, and care specifications. For flagship products like the Supima cotton tee, Uniqlo goes a step further, publishing its licensed use of American-grown Supima, a fiber known for its extra-long staple and consistent quality. The Supima tee typically sells for $20 to $30 with a markup around 3 to 4 times the production cost, a fraction of the spread seen on branded basics. The Heattech and Airism lines carry the same transparency, with fabric weights and performance specs listed openly. Parent company Fast Retailing reports honest gross margins in the low 50s, reflecting a commitment to volume over markup. You are paying for verified materials and functional design, not for a marketing campaign or a logo premium. The trade-off is a generic fit block that does not flatter everybody. So which brand takes the same transparency into the dress shirt category? A London-based brand that publishes the thread count alongside the price. 7. Charles Tyrwhitt. Charles Tyrwhitt takes a direct approach to honest pricing in men's dress shirts. Every product page lists not just the fiber composition, usually 100% two-ply cotton poplin, but also the precise thread count, a level of disclosure missing from most mid-market brands. Shirts retail between $70 and $120, and the company's direct-to-consumer model eliminates the wholesale markup that inflates prices elsewhere. By publishing fabric specs and clear details about construction, Charles Tyrwhitt gives buyers a factual basis for what they are paying. The typical markup lands around 2.5 to 3 times the landed cost. The construction uses a genuine split yoke, mother-of-pearl buttons on most ranges, and single needle stitching on the premium lines. The brand runs frequent 4-for-1 promotions that take the effective per unit price below $40 for two-ply cotton, a figure that genuinely undercuts most department store alternatives. So which brand takes this transparency even further and eliminates inventory entirely? A San Francisco label that only produces what has already been paid for. 6. Gustin. Gustin rewrites the playbook with a crowdsourced pre-order model that eliminates inventory waste and slashes retail markup. Every shirt or pair of jeans begins as a campaign where customers pledge to buy, and only once the project is fully funded does production begin. This structure means Gustin never overproduces, and the savings are passed directly to the buyer. Shirts made from Japanese selvage fabrics and sewn in the United States routinely sell for $69 to $99, a price that reflects the actual cost of high-quality materials and domestic labor. Each campaign discloses the provenance of the mill, naming Kaihara, Nihon Munpu, or collect mills on specific runs. The denim program offers weights from 12 to 23 ounces with full fabric specs listed before the pledge. By removing warehousing, unsold stock, and advertising overhead, Gustin delivers supply chain honesty mainstream brands cannot match. The trade-off is long lead times, often 6 to 12 weeks. So which brand applies this transparency to tailored clothing? A California workshop that publishes its full impact report. 5. Tailor Stitch. Tailor Stitch runs a direct-to-consumer model built entirely around workshop transparency. Every new fabric is introduced through a campaign page that lists the mill, the country of origin, the weight in ounces, and the exact blend before a single unit is cut. The brand's signature Jack shirt, made from a 10-ounce organic cotton twill woven in Japan and cut and sewn in California or Portugal, retails between $128 and $158. The typical markup lands around 2.5 to 3 times the landed cost, a ratio reflecting real labor inputs and verified material. Customers can see exactly which dye house treated the fabric and which factory handled construction. Restocks run as pre-orders, which reduces waste and keeps prices closer to actual cost. The fit is cut for a working body rather than a runway silhouette, and the seams are triple-stitched at stress points. The brand publishes a full annual impact report showing fabric composition, factory conditions, and waste figures across its catalog. So which brand takes these principles into the wool suit category? A Toronto operation quietly undercutting the entire tailoring industry. For Spire & Mackay. Spire & Mackay operates as one of the quietest value plays in men's tailoring, running a direct-to-consumer model out of Toronto that avoids wholesale entirely. A half canvas wool suit from this label retails between $498 and $648, a figure that would land at $1,200 or more under a conventional department store markup. The wool is sourced from Italian mills including Vitale Barbari's Canonico and Reader, and the jackets are built with a genuine floating chest piece rather than the glued fusing found in most same-priced competitors. Each product page lists the mill name, the fabric weight, and the construction type, giving the buyer a factual basis for the price rather than a vague claim of quality. The typical markup sits near 2.5 times the landed cost, almost unheard of in tailoring. Alteration allowances are generous, and the house block is available in slim and contemporary cuts without a customization fee. The bespoke service produces genuinely full canvas jackets at roughly a third of what a European equivalent would charge. So which brand applies this to a fully Italian supply chain? A London-based label that names every mill it uses. 3. Luca Faloni. Luca Faloni has built its reputation on a narrow promise that it actually keeps. Every product is made in Italy, every fabric is sourced from a named Italian mill, and every product page lists the region of production and the fiber detail before the buyer reaches checkout. A signature Portofino linen shirt retails between $195 and $225, woven from long staple European flax at a Como area mill and cut and sewn in Naples or Puglia. The markup sits around 2.5 to 3 times the landed cost, which is tight for a fully Italian garment. The brand operates primarily online with a small number of showrooms in London, Milan, and Zurich, avoiding the wholesale layer that typically doubles the price of Italian-made clothing at a department store. There are no licensed fragrances, no logo patches, no runway budget. The cashmere is two-ply from Cariaggi, the cotton is long staple from the Veneto, and the linen is certified European. The buttons are Australian mother of pearl, not plastic pressed to look like it. So which brand delivers the same honesty inside a domestic American supply chain? A Brooklyn label that prints the labor percentage on the page. 2. Kirin Finch. Kirin Finch has quietly become one of the most rigorously transparent menswear brands in the market by refusing almost every shortcut the category relies on. The brand lists the exact mill, the country of origin, the fabric weight, and the cost breakdown for every garment on its website, including labor percentages and freight. A Kirin Finch button-down in a two-ply cotton poplin retails between $148 and $178, woven at a mill in Portugal and sewn at a fair wear certified factory in the same region. The landed cost sits near $46 per shirt, giving a markup of roughly 3 times rather than the 8 to 10 times common in the mid-market. The pattern work is cut for a broader shoulder and a tapered waist rather than a generic trim block, and the construction uses single needle stitching at the sleeve placket and collar. There are no licensed sub-brands and no fragrance royalties. Deadstock buttons are sourced from European suppliers and listed by supplier name on every product page. So which brand takes every principle here and adds made to measure on top? The top of the list, where the algorithm replaces the sizing block. 1. Proper Cloth. Proper Cloth takes the top spot by building the most complete case for honest pricing in men's shirting. Every shirt begins with a fit algorithm that converts body measurements into a bespoke pattern tailored to the individual buyer, replacing the generic sizing block that forces most men into a compromise. The construction is single needle throughout the body, collar, and cuff, a detail that gives cleaner seams and better longevity than the double needle method used in most off-the-rack shirts. Each fabric option lists the mill name, the country of origin, the weave, the thread count, and the weight before the buyer commits. Prices range from $95 to $185 depending on cloth, and the markup sits at roughly 2 to 3 times the landed cost, which is low for made-to-measure work. The shirts are constructed in a proper cloth-owned facility, avoiding the licensing layer that inflates prices across the category. There are no logos on the exterior, no fragrance royalties, no wholesale chain to feed. Every order is backed by a perfect fit guarantee that will remake the pattern at no cost if the first version does not hang correctly. This is what honest pricing looks like when every layer of the industry's usual markup is stripped away. So, across all 16 brands, one pattern holds. Price rarely reflects quality. It reflects how much of the bill is spent on the garment versus how much is spent on the name. In men's fashion, the tag is often telling you about the marketing department, not the mill. Value is not about prestige. It is about what you can verify. Choose the cloth. Trust the stitching. Dress for yourself. And make sure you subscribe to this channel.